Gospel music can be traced back to the 17th century. It is truly the foundation from which our music emerged. While it has evolved in various ways over the years, it remains the basis of not only our churches, but our culture. This is Spreading Gospel to the Masses.
Welcome to the Urban One Music Summit, the DC market. My name is Ron Thompson. I'm the program director for Praise 104.1 and 1340 WICB. This music summit seminar is called Spreading Gospel to the Masses. I'm excited to host this, and we've got some great guests here, some folks that have been in this music industry and particularly on the gospel genre, and we're excited to talk to them. I would love to share their thoughts about how we can spread gospel throughout the masses. This format, the radio format, it's been sprinkled in on the urban and the urban ACs, but it didn't really have its own lane for a while until these gospel stations started forming around the country. So and there are a lot of folks who think that it's not really necessary, but I believe that there is room for gospel, and the gospel is evolving. And so the people that I have on this panel, they can really talk to how gospel music has evolved and where they think it should be going. With that, I'd like to introduce some of the panel that I've been able to have the pleasure to work with. First up, I want to introduce Jojo Prada. Good afternoon.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with all of you, my friends that I haven't seen in over a year. So hi, everyone.
All right. Neily Dickerson.
Hey, y'all. It's good I feel like Jojo, it's good to see. I haven't seen you other than on an Instagram post in a very long time. So I'm glad to see y'all.
And Phil Thornton.
Good to be here. Definitely good to see everyone virtually. Ron, thanks for the invitation. Neily, you know I love you. We used to go hiking in Culver City Stairs. And Jojo Pata,
great job. Great job, Mr. Thornton. Great job for all that you do.
Okay, so let me begin with you, Jojo. For everyone that is watching this right now, Jojo, can you please explain a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure thing. So I'm a publicist. I have been in publicity my whole career. I started out way back in the early 90s. So I'm a bit of a veteran. Right now, I own and operate my own PR firm, which is Ignition PR. And I like to call it the premier faith-based PR firm. I've handled a number of different people. I've worked with Donnie McClurkin and Shirley Caesar and Mary and Erica Campbell and Brian Courtney Wilson. So a host of different people. I am responsible and work on different PR and press campaigns for different releases, album releases, book releases, TV and film projects. So I handle all of the interview schedule, TV appearances, performances, whatever that encompasses, anything that can help push a brand forward.
Neily Dickerson.
Hey guys, so my name is Neily Dickerson. I have a marketing and promotions firm and a management company called The Indie Company, which is a play on the word independent. It's also my initials. So, and I've been working in the industry for a long time. I started actually as an industry brat. A long time ago, I worked at a company called A&M, and then I evolved from urban into gospel music, working at Gospel Centric, where we had Kirk Franklin and Kirk Carr and a whole bunch of other groups. And then I started my own company in 1997, and I had the opportunity to work a whole bunch of great records, Karen Clark's first album, and several of her albums after that, Yolanda Adams, and a lot of artists. And then I got the opportunity to go and work on a show called Sunday Best. And I became a producer on that show. And I've done marketing for a lot of movies and television shows and different soundtracks. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of the industry and see how gospel music can stand up against mainstream. So it's been a pleasure.
I'm Phil Thornton. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager for RCA Inspiration, home to everyone from Kirk Franklin to Travis Green to Corinne Hawthorne, We've got a Hezekiah Walker, a lot of great people. I don't want to get in trouble by missing anyone, but we have some of the best in gospel music. Prior to being at RCA Inspiration, I was at a label called E1. And prior to that, I was in the world of artist management. I'm also a television and film producer. In the faith space, I did a show a few years ago with David and Tamala Mann that aired on BET, as well as TV One. It's a Man's World that we won an NAACP Image Award for that series as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Spreading gospel to the masses. We've been doing it through radio in the early days, through the church, where, you first got your taste of gospel music, choirs and soloists. And then, of course, it began on radio. And now, of course, we're moving to, as Phil said, television and social media and digital platforms. Where do you see it moving next? Let's begin with Jojo.
Sure. Well, definitely, as with everything else, we're slowly moving around that curve where things are going entertainment-wise, which I feel like is entirely digital. I think that our next area of conquering, so to speak, would be the streaming and the digital space. I think you've seen our music slowly start to grow digitally in terms of streaming and on YouTube and things like that. But I think entertainment-wise and talent-wise, I think you're going to start to see some growth in the digital world, but certainly I feel in the streaming spaces. I think it is yet untapped. I know that Phil was involved in something that was extremely successful streaming-wise on Netflix recently with Voices of Fire. And so I think that is just an indication of where we'll see gospel and gospel talent and gospel music go.
Neily?
I agree with Jojo. I also believe the streaming will definitely be a part of it. And I believe television will even become a bigger part of it, as the shows like Mary Mary Show and different shows, Sunday Best and other shows will continue to make an impact with audiences, because audiences do want to see faith-based entertainment just as much as they want to see other kind of entertainment. And I think if we think about where BET was founded when Bob Johnson owned it, he started it with videos and Bobby Jones. And so Bobby Jones was the representation of gospel, and we've always been a supporter of it. Our audience loves gospel music. We like Ratchet and we like our gospel all in the same network, and we're okay with that. So I think we're going to continue to see that kind of thing evolve. And I think it's okay for us to do it. We just have to be careful in how we do it. But I definitely think it's going to continue to happen on television, and that will also be with streaming. So I look forward to being a part of it and watching it grow.
You bring up an interesting point, because when we talk to advertisers, when I first began doing gospel programming, most of the advertisers, when you talk to them about gospel, they had this image of the person with the matching hat, with the matching jacket, with the matching skirt and shoes, and that's who they viewed as being the gospel person. Why is it that it's so hard for gospel to get their foothold in, just mainstream advertising and just in the mainstream?
It's funny that you say that, because I've always wondered about advertisers, why they're afraid to say, hey, we're going to do this with gospel audiences, because we have the same issues. We get headaches, so we got to take Tylenol. We pray, but sometimes you need to have a little Advil to go with the prayer. So I think what people need to understand, advertisers and marketing, as they develop relationships with people who live in the world and who live in the world, a play on both of those topics, we have the same issues. We love God, but, we have life to live. So I think as they become like, as a people of color, as they start to realize, oh, we're alike, they start to realize, oh, Christians, we're alike, and we have the same stuff. So it's their issue that we have to help usher them into our world, because it's not, the music the message of the music may be different, but the life of the person is the same. So
take that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Neily. I mean, I think that, we need what I call more translators. I feel like in Radio 1, Washington, D.C., I feel like Sam Tatum, who I've known for some years, is a great example of a translator, someone who understands the space in the world, but also they can take that communication and that information to different brands and sponsors and show how viable this consumer can be, because this same consumer is the same one that's listening to Kirk Franklin is arguably still streaming the Her and the Jasmine Sullivans. And, so it's a very similar consumer, but I just think education is going to continue to be helpful. I've seen a number of brands start to really do more in the space. I don't want to take this time to shout them out because we're not getting paid to do that, but there are a number of them that are doing mobile companies and insurance companies and restaurants and fast food chains that that we see time and time again. But I think it's about education, and we've been fortunate at RCA Inspiration. I have a brand partnership division, and I see it firsthand, how sometimes challenging it can be. But when we actually say, hey, our primary audience is African American, female, this age range, then it's like, oh, well, this is the same target that we're, but again, it's just about really education and really just showing them that it's not about just the religious, because some people get fixated on that it's a religious aspect versus gospel music is for everyone. Every genre of music that we love was derived from gospel music. Whether you love R&B, jazz, blues, rock and roll, country, we keep going. This all started with gospel. And again, the message, but so many people associate it with religion versus just, it's positive. It's about hope. And it's about inspiration. So we've gone more of a, hey, it's about hope, inspiration, pitch and angle, and focusing on the target consumer, as Neily mentioned, versus religion. I think that's sometimes where it gets to be dicey for some of the corporations.
Yeah, and I want to add into what Phil said, because I think that's a good point, is that what our artists, I find recently and currently are doing that's really great and helpful to that cause is bridging that gap with the mainstream world and showing that lifestyles aren't super different. And you're seeing really good partnerships with even mainstream artists that are showing, the mainstream consumer that we're all the same, that we all have a God that we love, that we serve, that we are grateful to. And so I think, not just the executives doing the work, which they're doing great work, but also the artists representing a more, open world, and a world that is accepting and less judging and less critiquing, but more open to saying, hey, we can bridge this lifestyle. And I think that should be super helpful for the overall advertising push for gospel and faith-based music.
What I want to talk about next is how the gospel music has changed, the artists have changed. Phil, you spoke about, and of course, Neily and Jojo, you've all worked with some of the greats. You can name some of the great artists that have graced the airwaves, in the 70s and 60s and even in the 80s. But, now we're at 2021. And I want to talk about where the music is right now and how gospel is trying to reach that audience, that younger audience, and bring them along.
My approach is constantly trying to bridge the gap. You heard Jojo mention about bridging the gap on the advertiser side just now. It's about bridging the gap with the consumers as well, musically. So, just out right now, I have a song that we're promoting at the format with the singer Her, Her, who's, having a great run right now. Her and artist Thornton Wells, called Hold Us Together. But I also got a song with Kirk Franklin and Lil Baby that's out there called We Win from the Space Jam 2 soundtrack. So I think collaborations continues to be really a helpful way to, reignite in some ways the genre, but also from the Spotifys and the Apples of the world, even from our radio stations. You all want something fresh, and whether it's tempo or not, but just collaborations with some of the mainstream artists and collaborations within the genre have been helpful. But I pride myself, we have a wide range. We have the more contemporary on our roster. We have choir music on our roster. We have worship on our roster. I've even got the traditional. So we cover the full spectrum. And I think it's important that we don't alienate any area. So while contemporary or worship may be having a great run now, like with acts like Maverick City and Elevation, it's still important to make sure that choir music stays alive, because that's also where a lot of, the music started. So it's important to have balance, but I'm really excited about what's happening on the worship side right now. Like, I have the pleasure also being in partnership with the Maverick City music team and Tribal. And I know some people debate whether they should be on the gospel versus, I just think it's great music with a positive message that's attracting a younger demographic. And again, when I say younger, I'm talking that 18 to 24, that's that core streaming audience. And that, when I was 18 to 24, I was listening to Kirk Franklin and Mary and Yolanda, and again, they're now still with us and we celebrate them, but we've now got to get the youth involved and want them to think gospel is cool. And I think acts like Maverick, I think Corinne Hawthorne, some of these artists that they're making gospel kind of like the cool thing to listen to, but still have the message, but it's just kind of giving it so it's not just, my mom's music or my grandmom's music in some cases. So I think that's super important. And thank you, Ron, for being a trailblazer. So when you get these records that I've experimented on some of these collaborations, you're one of the programmers in the entire nation that's never afraid to jump out with some of my collaborations. And I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Jojo, you want to take that on?
I just want to echo what he said, definitely about collaborations for sure. Just currently, I just want to shout out Brian Courtney Wilson, for example. He has 2 different collaborations, which I feel like are important to note because what it does, it shows the influence of gospel music in different genres. So he did a duet with Lettucey. He redid the Roberta Flack, Donny Hathaway song, B-Roll Black for Me. And then he also has a duet with Lady A's Hillary Scott. And they redid his song, Fear Is Not Welcome. And so I just love how that shows with the R&B side, with the country side, just the massive influence that gospel music has. And I think that's important. But then I also want to shout out somebody like a Jacqueline Carr, who is super young. She is super beautiful and really fresh, but she still maintains the core sound of gospel music in her music ministry. And I think that's also important. It just, with a Corinne and a Jordan Armstrong and a Jonathan McReynolds and a Jacqueline Carr, it just shows that even in our younger generation, there is a wide range and a variety of gospel music. And I think that all is helpful to reaching the different ranges of young people, those in church, those out of church. I mean, those are still important to remember.
And it's interesting that you talked about this moving to a younger audience and the music changing and cross promoting different artists, doing a duet with an R&B artist or a jazz artist. And how do we bring them along with the music? Because some will probably say, hey, listen, that music's not really for me. What do you say to that?
Kind of back to what Phil and Jojo said, it's just a matter of the good thing about gospel audiences is we like everything. We are able to like it all. The jazz, the hip hop, the traditional, the urbanesque kind of a sound. And I think that's the beauty of gospel music is that because it all was birthed from gospel, we are able to enjoy and embrace all of it. So I think as we continue to do some of the things that Jojo and Phil said, our audiences will continue to appreciate it and to learn how to purchase it and to consume it and make it their own. I think it's just a matter of us continuing to educate the audience and the consumer to understand that we need them to support the music, whether it's by streaming and being able to stream your music or even download it and even potentially sometimes purchase a CD. Who knew that those are still there and available? And I love the fact that vinyl is coming back. So I don't know that labels are definitely pursuing and making vinyl for audiences, but I think as we continue to see things push out and grow in that area, we'll continue to see the audiences embrace and purchase and to consume the music and to make it their own on some level. And I think that's going to be very important as we continue to move forward. But I do think it's just a matter of bridging the gaps. And I think that we all, as an audience, just love what we're being presented with. And we just have to pick which one we want to hear and just embrace it that way.
Okay, well, when we talk about gospel music now and hearing it, we no longer sit around and just listen to radio as we did back in the past on a box, or we carry it. It's mobile. It's on our phone. We can take it anywhere. We have anywhere from 100,000 songs in our pocket at any time. Talk about how you guys are spreading gospel through this new social media.
Every meeting with the team at the label, there's a full digital marketing department that I'm talking with, like literally daily. about how whether that's targeting our audience on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, our own company website or artist websites. I mean, it's a combination of strategies, but we want to make sure that we have a presence on all of these social platforms. That's really the first step as far as on the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everyone you can think of, Triller, all of them. And we want to have a presence there, but also thinking about on the DSP side, the digital service provider side, the Apples, the Spotifys, the Amazons, the Titles, Pandora, like making sure that we're also creating great content for those partners as well, to make sure that, so if you are a subscriber to one of those digital service providers, that if you want to hear gospel music, that it's a great experience, whether that's a track by track commentary, whether that's video content of the song on the platform. So we're just, constantly, we're learning every day. We're looking at the analytics and reports to see how people are responding to what we're putting out there. But the key is just really making sure that we're present and on these platforms.
We've been dealing with this pandemic, and I wanted to talk to you briefly about how you guys have been able to navigate through this and still spreading gospel to the masses. I mean, I know it's been tough where there's no concerts, there's no shows. How have you guys been able to navigate through this?
I'll say this. I mean, I think we all learned together. I think collectively, worldwide, we all learned about Zoom and StreamYard, and we were able to figure it out. And I think what was great is the creativity of the labels, of the artists, of all of us together working to figure out how to push this music out. I mean, you'll see, these virtual concerts started to take off. So I think that was one of the things I feel that was great about what came out of the pandemic, is that fans felt like they could connect with artists on their Instagram personally, like during lives and during Facebook lives and things like that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what Jojo just said, I think the connection with the audience and consumers and the artists has made music kind of reminiscent of when I was younger. I'm really about to tell how old I am. Of when we used to buy 45s and we felt connected to the artist because we were so crazy. We would buy the single, and on the reverse side, it would be another song off of the same album we were going to go buy 4 months later. So I think what these different clubhouses and these different Zooms and different things have done is allow us to feel a little closer to the audience artist than we did before, and maybe own them in a different way. And I think ownership of what you love is important. So we feel connected. I think it has made artists, along with their labels and management teams, stay in the faces of the consumer and become connected to them in a different way. And I think that's really important. So I think the pandemic, as it has drawn families closer, has drawn the music industry and the family of artists to consumer and made them a little closer as well. So I like that in that way, although I miss going out and seeing people, and I know we all have. I think it has done that for us as well.
Yeah, I endorse both statements. I mean, they pretty much covered it. I mean, we've had to get super creative on the label, and it was a little scary at first on like, how do we record, whether it's audio or video content. But I salute our artists for, not stopping this. I think this was even therapeutic and helpful to them to be able to still be able to record and create content that now has been released. I think back to when the pandemic first started, we were rolling out the Kiara Sheard album, which was like, okay, how do we do this? This was in April of last year. And we can't really do a promo tour. So we just relied on video content, socials, and key appearances, and having great partners like, Urban One in DC, that was supporting us out the gate, and just, doing phoners and hopping on Zooms and just meeting and greeting the people. And we did like virtual concerts, and, fast forward, Kiara, won a big Stellar Award for Contemporary Album of the Year and Song of the Year. And then this was all music that we released during the pandemic. So it was a learning curve, but it also showed us like, hey, I don't have to be in the office 5 days a week. So that's another thing we're looking at and revisiting as a team and a company. Like, are we in the office 2 days a week? Because we've shown that we can still be productive and still communicate. So I think it's really challenged us across the board to really figure out what really means, what really moves the needle, and how do we just really better balance our time and everything. So I loved it. I mean, I don't love the pandemic, but I love that it's stretched and, us to a point where we're now reinventing and rethinking how we operate in this business.
All right, spreading gospel to the masses. We've got a couple of minutes left with Jojo Prada, Neily Dickerson, and Phil Thornton. In closing, what would you like to say to any artist that's looking to get out here and get in this business and spread this gospel?
Just, really don't, really do the work. Don't be afraid to do the work. Obviously, if you want to be in gospel, God first. So don't try to, you got to keep him first and make sure he's at the forefront of your life and your message in the songs and your intentionality of what you're wanting to build. But really, it's about make sure you're authentic, do the work, and really don't be afraid to try some new things. Don't be afraid to evolve with the times and everything happening. So I'm really just excited about this next wave of artists as well as executives. So I'm encouraged, gospel music is still very much viable. We're still certifying gold and platinum singles at our label, not just of the catalog, but of the new artists. So it's still very much a viable genre of music. And I just want to encourage everybody and salute Neily Dickerson and Jojo Prada, who I've known for many years and have done amazing work. No, again, like these sisters have done amazing work and have really broken many of the artists that are household names and still here. That's longevity. So it's also a genre where you can really continue to be excellent and be in it for as long as you desire. But I wanted to take this time to honor and salute you both. So gospel music alive and well, and salute to Neily and Jojo. And thank you, Ron, for having me.
Future artists and aspiring artists and executives, I would say, understand what your strengths are, because you're not going to get everything that everyone else gets. So don't chase what you see online. Don't chase what you see on the gram, right? Like find where your strengths are and tap into that. I think that's the important part too. Hearing from God, hearing what you're called to do is the most important thing, I think, for anyone. It's instead of seeing what everyone else has and thinking, I'm going to do exactly that and I'm going to have the same success, really understanding who you are as an artist or an executive and then going for that. That's my 2 cents.
Pace yourself, new artists, and have fun. Don't look at what everybody else is doing. Pace yourself, do your thing, become famous in your region, and just swell it out at your church in your region, and then just have a good time with it. Don't want to be like somebody. Just be totally you and enjoy it. So, and thank you, Phil. Great job, as Jojo said.
Neily Dickerson, Jojo Prada, and Phil Thornton, thank you so much. I'm honored that you could be a part of this panel, spreading gospel to the masses.